fourth grade, it's Miss Lear. We are doing describing characters, instruction level D. So we've got a sticky situation by Lisa Lerner. I'm gonna actually read this. Aunt Carmen pulled up to her house. "We're here," Rosie exclaimed from the back seat. A moment later, Rosie bolted from the car, tripped on her shoelace, and fell. Sounds like she's excited. All right, there we go. There they are. "I'm okay," she said, popping up quickly. She looked longingly at the wide river that edged the property. Just around the bend was a narrow inlet and a marsh. What's an inlet? A long, narrow area of water that goes into the land from sea or lake. Okay, whatever. "Let's take a rowboat to the island in the marsh." That sounds fun. "Slow down," Aunt Carmen laughed. "You just got here." "But last winter I found the perfect spot to build a treehouse." Aunt Carmen raised her an eyebrow. "Do you have building instructions?" Rosie shook her head. "I'll figure it out as I go," she said, and hurried into the house. Is it safe to build things without knowing what you're doing? No.
What do Rosie's words and actions tell you about her?
Okay. She
is creative and witty. She can get quite loud. She rushes into things.
Okay. Well, the first one that sticks out to me is that she rushes into things because her Aunt Carmen tells her to slow down. And she trips on her laces because she's in a hurry. I mean, we don't know how loud she's being. Creative? She hasn't created anything. She wants to create a treehouse. Let's do, she rushes into things. Yeah, Miss Leah. Woo! Getting it. Alright. Her to the house. Okay. Aunt Carmen followed Rosie inside. "Remember last winter when you rushed out to the snowshoe without warm socks? Your feet nearly got frostbitten." Snowshoe? What's that? Well, I know what frostbitten is, though. Frostbitten's when something on your body gets so cold that it, like, dies. So it happens to people's ears, toes, nose. Let's keep going. "I don't need socks in summer," Rosie shrugged. "You still need to be prepared," Aunt Carmen said, pointing to a chart on the wall. "Marshes have tides just like oceans. The tide table tells us when it's safe for boating." So, do you know what a tide is? Naziah? Yes, a tide is how far up the water goes, how deep it'll be, the waves. But if you don't pay attention to it, you'll get stuck in the mud when the water recedes. It moves away from the area it's been covered. So when it receives, when it goes back. Okay. She checked the time. "Whoops, I promised I'd drive my neighbor to an appointment. I'll be back in a bit." After Carmen left, Rosie briefly studied the tide table, but she decided it was too complicated. Lazy. Okay, here's the chart, and it tells you what time the tide is high. It's high at 10 a.m. It's low at 6 p.m. Okay.
Why does Aunt Carmen want Rosie to check the tide table?
Why does she want her to check the table?
She wants Rosie to note the weather, so she will dress warmly enough.
Does she need to be warm? No, they said it's summer.
She wants Rosie to be sure the marsh has deep enough water for boating.
All right, that makes sense.
She wants Rosie to use it as a model so she can make her own tide table.
Does she want her to make her own tide table? No.
She wants Rosie to be sure the marsh has deep enough water for boating.
Yeah, make sure the tide is right for boating. Yeah. And that was easy. Okay. "The river has plenty of water," she told herself, heading into a garage. "Making a treehouse will be simple as long as I have boards for a ladder and a bunch of tools." Ooh, tools can be dangerous. She loaded everything into the boat and then began rowing. She did not listen. But once Rosie entered the marsh, she got confused. The last time she'd been there in the winter, the marsh hadn't been so packed with tall cattails and grasses. Okay. Now the water was shallow. Do we all know what shallow is? There's deep and then there's shallow. That means there's not a lot of water. And Rosie's oars stuck in the muddy bottom of the marsh. The tide's going out, she thought. I'll have to walk back. But when she stepped out of the boat, her foot sunk deep in the mud. Oh my gosh. What a mess.
Which line of dialogue shows Rosie's trait of being too sure of herself? Drag it into the chart.
All right, being too sure of herself. Okay, the river has plenty of water. That sounds sure. The tide is going out. I have to walk back. I think the tide is... So she's not being cautious. She's being too sure. Kind of carefree. She's like, the river's got plenty of water. I'm pretty sure it's that. So let's put that here. I like that one. Rosie's heart started to race. Now what? But then she remembered her treehouse supplies. Maybe she could make something to make her feet above the mud. To keep her feet above the mud. Rosie selected 2 of her shorter boards and then measured out and cut some rope. She took her time as she carefully tied the boards onto her water shoes. What is she doing? She's making shoes out of a board? I know what she's doing. I wonder if it's going to ask you guys, so I won't say it yet. Now comes the real test, she thought. She swung her legs over the side of the boat and carefully stood up. The boards worked. Her feet stayed on the top of the mud. Do we know why that's working? So, when you step into the mud and your foot sinks, you want to distribute your weight on a bigger area. So, your weight is over more of the mud, so you're more likely to stay up. Whatever, science.
Which action reveals that Rosie is clever? She ties boards to her feet so she can walk on the mud.
Clever is smart.
She stands carefully after she climbs out of the boat.
Okay.
She remembers the supplies she brought for the treehouse.
Okay, so remembering is responsible. Carefully is being careful. Coming up with a shoe, that seems like what we're looking for, but honestly, I'm not sure. Yes. All right, cool. Making her own shoe to distribute her weight. Clever. Oh. Uh-oh. I don't think her aunt is happy. Rosie shuffled over the mud toward the riverbank. There she removed the boards and made her way back to Aunt Carmen's house. Aunt Carmen hurried toward her. Are you all right? Rosie nodded. Her aunt looked relieved. Well, no more solo boating, she scolded. I'm sorry, Rosie said. But as Aunt Carmen hugged her, Rosie smiled at her mud shoes, proud of how she had gotten herself out of a sticky situation.
Fill in the blanks to tell how the story ends.
Rosie realized she should have been more curious, careful, comfortable. She should have been more careful about going out on the boat alone. But she feels... What about solving her problem? Is she ashamed she could solve her problem? Is she nervous she could solve her problem? She was pleased. She was happy she could solve her problem. Yeah, you better dance.
What a Thief by Lisa Lerner.
Okay.
Read carefully. You only get 1 try to answer each question.
Okay. Pressure's on. We're going to do this one next time because I don't want these videos to be too long. I'll do this one tomorrow. I hope you followed along. If anything was confusing, you can pause it, look back, figure it out. If you don't have iReady, this way you get to learn about it. And if you do have iReady, then you get things more thoroughly explained. I guess I should have told you that at the beginning. All right, talk to you later. to you later.